Seriously, Bud is brought to you by OmniSend. OmniSend is a top choice for email and SMS marketing on WordPress, perfect for WooCommerce shops. Easily connect with customers and send out awesome campaigns every day.
Hello, my name is Bree, and welcome to Seriously, Bud, a podcast featuring an unexpected conversation with someone in the WordPress community. And now it's time for my dad, Bud Kraus.
Thank you, Bree. You know, I had so much fun last week speaking with Andrew Palmer. I thought I'd do this all over again. Now, I'll be back at the end to give you my thoughts about this week's episode. It's number 43. So here we go. Leonardus, Nugraha, welcome to Seriously, Bud. Okay, how do you say your name?
In Indonesian, you can call me Leonardus Nugraha. So it's a little bit more hard on the E and the A, Nugraha. But English pronunciation is fine, Leonardus Nugraha. And for short, everyone just call me Leo. Simple as that.
You know I stick to Leo. So, Leo, you know I call you Leo. You got to tell me right off the bat, what is Jakarta, Indonesia like?
Oh, it was busy. It was big. Traffic jams everywhere. That's one thing that I also remember about Jakarta. And
now, hold on. Aren't you there now?
no, I live in another city called Bogor. And it is around 50 kilometers south of Jakarta.
Do I have this right? You were born in Jakarta and now you live in Bogor?
Yes, that's correct. So I was born in Jakarta and our family lived there for around 3 years after I was born. And then we moved down south to Bogor because even like back in 1997, the air pollution is already quite bad. And then we moved down south in Bogor. So it's a little bit more hillier place, more greens, more natural. And now it's pretty much the same as polluted as Jakarta, but I had no choice.
Okay, and what is the climate like there? Is it always humid?
Yes,
That's what I
it's
imagine.
hot, humid compared to subtropical country, obviously. But there's a little bit difference between Jakarta and Bogor. As I said, we live in a little bit more higher place, hillier, so air temperature generally a little bit more cooler, like around 2 degrees cooler. And it rains a lot. We are bang in the middle of two mountains. And yeah, we have those sort of like mountainous climates, rains, winds. So in a way, it's a little bit nicer than Jakarta, which is pretty much hot and humid all year long.
And more
Yeah.
congested and dirty and crowded and all that stuff. Yeah. Where did you go to school?
Okay, so I spent from my kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school in the same, institution. It's a Catholic school. It's called Regina Pacis, which is a Latin word for Queen of Peace or something. It was a Catholic school. I was there for 14 years, believe it or not, from kindergarten right up to high school.
Right.
It is in my city, so pretty much nearby. And then I moved up to another town for my college degree, just few kilometers east of Jakarta. It's a city called Tangerang Selatan. And spent 4 years there. And then after that, I spent 1.5 years in Malaysia for my master's degree.
What did you study?
Okay, so my college degree is business management, and then for the master I took international business, which is more specific side of business management.
International business. So I have to ask you, how many languages do you speak?
Not much. Officially, I speak 2, English and Indonesia, but I understand some. I don't know if we can count this as a language that I speak or not, but there are plenty of local dialects in Indonesia. For instance, where I live, we call it Sundanese, which is the local dialects for the west of Java. And then because my family come from the central Java, we also speak Javanese. So that's 2 bonus languages from Indonesia itself.
Wow. Do you know how many people live in Indonesia and how many islands make up the archipelago? And I did not look this up before we started.
I'm not sure if my knowledge is updated, but the last number I know is about 270 million people. Yeah,
Is that
270 million.
Wow.
And I think around more than 100 million themselves lives in Java Island. It's not the biggest, but the most developed, I would say, and the most concentrated, because that's where Jakarta is. Everyone in the world where the capital city is, definitely gonna be the most crowded place, right? And about the islands, I think there's about 17,000
17,000
Yeah, if my
islands.
geography knowledge is correct.
Do you know the names of all 17,000?
No.
I bet you do.
Even if I can name 10 of them, that's already an achievement.
That is wild. Talk about an island nation. Wow. What is Jakarta known for? That is it technology, hemp? I don't know. What is, clothing?
Do you want to hear the positive thing or the negative things?
Yeah, both. Give me like 3 of each.
Business, economics, politics. Those 3, that's the 3 main things you will find in Jakarta. And traffic congestion, obviously. You didn't mention traffic congestion in the exception, so I said it. And I think the last one is big. Because in Southeast Asia, one of the nearest countries is Singapore, right? Singapore is one of the most developed country in Southeast Asia. Singapore is actually smaller than Jakarta. Jakarta is big.
I doubt if I will ever go to any of these places. It's too far away. I mean, the plane ride is like 4 days.
Not really. There, In my case, it was like...
Could you fly from New York to Jakarta?
One stop. If you live in New York, there's a direct flight from New York to Singapore, which is one of the longest flights in the world. And then you can just take another 2 hours flight from Singapore to Jakarta.
Okay, so if you go to Singapore, then you're flying on one of those double-decker...
It's not double-decker, believe it or not.
Oh, because they do have a double-decker.
Yeah, but for the long-distance ones, they use this A350 Airbus aircraft, which I happen to use the same aircraft and the same airline, Singapore Airlines, from San Francisco to Singapore during the last WordCamp. And I can say it was a nice, enjoyable flight. If you ever want to come to Indonesia, I would recommend that, Singapore Airlines.
I'll keep that in mind. But on a totally different subject here, I see that you have dogs,
yes,
plural.
Dogs, plural, 2 of them.
And what kind of dogs? And you got to walk them all the time. And tell me about the life of a dog, since I probably know more about that,
Okay, so to give an idea of the physical appearance I am, so I'm not a big guy. I'm only like 160, 50 kilograms.
Yeah, but you're a good-looking guy.
And then my dogs, 2 of them, one of them is a golden retriever, 37 kilograms. And another is a mixed Kintamani. Kintamani is an Indonesian dog breed, mixed between a Kintamani and Terrier. And he is like 25 kilograms. Every time I walk both of my dog and just me holding the leash of these 2 big dogs, people were like, I don't know what came across their mind. Maybe they're shocked, maybe they're baffled, but there's just this little guy carrying 2 big dogs. Is it actually the man walking the dog or the dogs walking the man?
That's what I was getting. That's just what I was going to say. It sounds like the dogs walk.
Absolutely.
That must be quite a sight to see you walk these big dogs, Yeah. So you like doing that, I suppose, right? You love your dogs. Most dog owners do.
And when you have two dogs, and the thing is, the golden retriever is a pandemic dog. So I get him during the pandemics in 2020. He's not that much socialized compared to the other dogs. He is much more of like a home dog, but still I him for a walk. If you have those super clingy dogs, your life starts to revolve around them, not their life revolves around mine. All the walk schedules, like in the morning and afternoons, it is their schedule, like 5:30 a.m. in the morning and then 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Every freaking day.
Yeah, that's why I done it. Well, whatever. Don't even, if you've ever heard a past episode, I've already done my dog stuff, and I don't look good when I talk about dogs. Although my daughter has a beautiful little Havapoo, and I love that little dog. But so there, I guess it depends. But your dogs are too big for me. I like little doggies, So what about bicycling? Now you're a cyclist. Is that what you would call yourself?
I can claim myself a long-time cyclist. Probably I started cycling from 2008. So since I was in the middle school.
Okay.
And I got pretty serious around 2010, like training regularly. I even rode my bicycle to school when I was in high school.
How long of ride was that?
It was 10K one way. So 10K from my home to my school.
Okay.
Also in the college for 4 years straight. And I have quite a regular training back in the day. Pretty good performance. Mm-hmm. And then downhill from that on. But I still do cycling right now. But yeah, not as competitive and not as strong as I was.
Well, I like to ride bikes too. But, right now we're in winter. And it's actually may snow here today. Who knows? And I'm not going to be riding, But I love to ride.
Fun.
It's fun.
And I also do this kind of like indoor training now. I have this gadget contraption that can connect to your bicycle. I don't have to buy a spare static bike, just like that tool, and then I can just like mount my bike into the tool, the indoor trainer, and then do indoor training,
Great idea.
The advantage is because it's basically the same bicycle. I can have all the positions, my saddle, my handlebar, the same position, so it's not really changing the geometry for my body. So it's much easier and nice to train on compared to the traditional static bicycle. And yeah, nowadays I use that because, like work schedule, dog schedule, and what life schedules. So I don't have that many hours to ride in the morning.
Yeah.
So I resort to indoor training instead.
Is it required by law to ride with a helmet?
I don't think it's by law mandatory, but given like the traffic in Indonesia and also the speed at which I'm riding at, because I ride a road bike, a road race bicycle, so it must be like 30k, 40k an hour plus. So having a helmet is not basically, it's not something that is mandated by the law or regulation, but it's something that I want for my own good sake,
I've had a little discussion with Pete Chaneri about this. I don't know if you know Pete Chaneri. Basically, she's saying that if you the disclaimers on the helmets, they don't really do any good. But I told her that I've fallen a couple of times, and had I not worn that helmet and I hit my head on concrete, I probably would be even in worse condition than I am right now. I mean, I don't think hitting my head on concrete would be a very good idea. So I like to.
I think for any safety device like helmet or any sports, any activities, it's not about whether it's mandatory by law or something. It's just whether you're taking care of yourself or not.
Well, here we have to mandate it because people are just too stupid to. I mean, we had to make laws that say you can't text when you drive. You have to wear a seatbelt. I mean, we just have to do that because people would know otherwise. That's just me saying. Is there anything I can't ask you about? I should have asked you this question before. I usually do. I mean, if you tell me you can't ask me about something now, then I have to.
I don't know. I
have to take it out.
You can ask me everything, to be honest, because I don't know what you want to ask, but if something.
It's coming. What about women? Hey there, pardon my interruption. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about the WP.world. It's the place to go to find out what people in the WordPress world are doing and let others know what you're doing too. That's the WP.world. Now back to the show. Now, I said a little bit ago, but before you answer that question, you're a good-looking guy. At least I think you are. And boy, I don't say it very often. So watch out, Leo. Next time I see you, I should think about guys too, because I don't know what your interests are.
I'm still single. Yeah, I started to think about, like women or spouses because of the age. But also, like in the same time, I saw so many great people also living their lives in celibacy, and then I still enjoying pretty much my whole life. So
I get it.
It's not something that I want to rush. If you, as you said, a lot of people heard Emma's episode, and you know how quirky Emma's story is. When I think about soulmate, that's how it should be. You don't have to rush. You don't have to look for it. If it clicks, it clicks.
That's true. So, have you tried dating apps? I mean, before you answer that question, there's a lot of it's amazing, at least in the United States, how many people are staying single, not having kids, doing the traditional thing well until their 30s and late 30s and 40s. I guess you don't look, right? Is that the idea?
I don't bother to look.
I was like that too. I gave up, and then all of a sudden I met my wife.
There's a negative stigma around dating apps in Indonesia. It's been used for something a little bit taboo on our faith or our culture. So it's not really popular. But I know there are apps for it. Many people use it in the United States and western part of the world. But it's not something really common here.
Speaking of apps, I don't see you using. Do you use social media? I don't really see you.
Seriously,
around on social.
I use social media. I use LinkedIn.
Hold on a second. We have to do that again. Okay. It's Seriously Bud, not just seriously. Now, I'm not going to cut that out. Okay, are you on social media? How come I never see you on social media?
Seriously, but I have LinkedIn. I have.
Right.
I mean, fair enough. I'm not that active on Twitter or X, but LinkedIn and Instagram.
What about Blue Sky? Blue Sky is like taking over the WordPress.
Not yet. I heard it, but in terms of social media, I use them, but I'm pretty much not an early adopter. Maybe it take me quite a while until.
Because you're smart. I have to admit, now you mentioned Emma. We're talking about Emma Young. So that means we're going to be talking about WordPress now. This is the 2 minutes of WordPress part of the show. And in case you don't know, WordPress is software that you use to make websites. Okay, that's my little, what is WordPress? All right. And you guys, you and Emma work for a company called Hostinger, which, by the way, I would like to one day have as a sponsor for Seriously Bud. But that's not why you're here, but just wanted to stick that in there. And I actually work for you guys. Hard to believe that I write articles, and it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. So, but anyway, so what do you do besides deal with me?
This is quite a good story. So one day I got assigned to write about WordPress 5.9 updates. Before that, I wrote little content about WordPress, and that's when I had to install it, and then test the new beta version, test all the features, read all the notes from the developers and the core contributors. And that's how I fell into WordPress. After that article, I still remember WordPress 5.9. Almost all article I wrote for hosting are pretty much all about WordPress.
Well, how did you get to Hostinger? Did they find you? You found them?
So,
how did that work?
Years ago, Hostinger has this subsidiary called Niaga Hoster. That's in English, but in Indonesia it's Niaga Hoster. In Indonesia, it was during the pandemic, believe it or not. So I finished my master's degrees just before the pandemic happens. Companies are freezing their hiring, and then, you cannot go to office and stuff. So it's really, really sucks back then. But Niaga Hoster / Hostinger open a vacancy for a remote writer working from home, which is a concept that is not really common in Indonesia. What I had in mind is I need to get a job, whatever it is. This is pandemic, I was thinking probably I'm just gonna work temporarily after the condition got better, probably I will look for other companies. But turns out I stick 5 years later.
Well, when it comes to WordPress, you can check in, but you can't check out, although there are people that do check out. Let's just...
Reminds me of a song.
It does happen, yeah. I guess there's a song, right? I kind of speak in songs because that's the only language that I kind of know. So you had to learn WordPress in order to do the writing.
Yeah, but when I joined Hostinger, the concept of WordPress is not completely alien, because one of my projects in college is actually creating an e-commerce website. And it was WordPress 4 point something, and I used WooCommerce back then. And, that's how I know WordPress, self-hosted WordPress, and then hosting from that on. But that's just about it. Just one single college project, and then I've never used WordPress until I joined Hostinger, basically.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You may be the only Hostinger employee in Indonesia because they're based in Lithuania.
No, surprisingly, no.
No what? They're not based in Lithuania?
I'm not the only single one. I'm not the only single one. There are
one.
hundreds of Indonesian employees. Hundreds. Yes.
For Hostinger?
Yeah.
Is that so?
Seriously.
Wow, that's a lot. But it is based in
the company itself based in Lithuania. And then we have an entity in Indonesia for the operations and employment in Indonesia.
That's why. Right. That's interesting. Oh, you're a photographer too. Am I right about that? I mean, there's a lot of WordPressers that are photographers. Lots. They have a little club of their own, right? I don't know what they're called, but are you involved in that little club they have?
Not
for
really.
Photographers?
But I do upload photos to WordPress photo directory, and basically hanging out with those guys when I was volunteering for WordCamp Asia. But pretty much that's about it.
There's Howard Spaeth and Michelle Frechette and Marcus Brunette. This is a good time for me to name drop people who have been on my show. They're all photographers, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a few that I know that are photographers. Now, what do you take pictures of?
Ooh, quite varied, I would say. So my favorite ones is basically landscape. Back in the day when I was still traveling the pre-pandemic days. And then I'd also take streets photography and transportation, trains, cars on the streets. Yeah, just those kind of
cool.
Project.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Do you have a special camera for all of this?
I use a single camera and single lens. So I just one gear to rule them all. It's a full frame mirrorless camera from Sony, and just a single 85mm lens. Not even a zoom lens. It's a fixed lens.
And I don't know what made me think of this, but now I know you were in the United States. I know you've been here, but where else have you been in the United States? I know you've been to Portland, Oregon, but where else have you been? Oh, you've been to Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah, I did go to the White House and Capitol building as well. But yeah, basically the times I've been to US is basically WordCamp US. So Portland, and then Maryland, the tri-state area, Maryland. And I stayed in Virginia, actually. So I stayed in Old Town, Virginia, Alexandria. Basically on that single location, I went to 3 states, Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C.
When you saw the White House, What did you think? Because I will tell you what a lot of people think, but you tell me what you thought.
My spontaneous reaction was, it is bigger than it was on image. Like,
see, seriously, Leo, I mean, everybody I know looks at it and they say, because I took Svelena and I took Elaine and I took, and they look at it and they say, and they never saw it before, and they say, gosh, it's a lot smaller in real life than it is on television. And you're saying it's
seriously,
bigger.
but
I mean, how many times you only get like
as
once,
much as I can.
This is like the third time, but okay.
Anyway, like every time I saw it in the news, it was like using wide angle lens and then just Mr. President standing up.
I see.
Then when I visit the White House, right next to the fence, so I can see it like really, really close to the White House, and I see the pillars and then the chandeliers. I was like, my God, it's big.
Huh. So interesting, because they thought it was smaller. Anyway, I've been in the White House, but not in the Oval Office yet. I'm working my way. Eventually, I'm going to get to that Oval Office one way or the other.
Are you running for president?
No, not now and not ever. Anyway, I want to ask you the final question, which is, who do you suggest I have on a future episode of Seriously Bud?
How many names can I name? 1 or 2?
No. One name, and if I don't like it or if I've already interviewed the person, I will.
So the name that I have is Nadia Maya Ardiani. She's
Nadia. Is that what you just said? I don't know Nadia.
Nadia Maya Ardiani. Probably I will write to you later. The reason why I recommend her is because, so she's one of Indonesia's WordPress contributors for Training Team, and she has a lot of interesting stories that probably will spice up your podcast.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So she has interesting stories to tell me about her life.
I believe it.
I don't know if you know Andrew Palmer, but Andrew, talk about interesting stories of what a life. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I'm editing his episode right now. Well, not right this second. And what a life. That's for sure. But, everybody I've interviewed has really interesting lives in one way or the other. And they're all smart and they're all interesting and they're all over the world. And you certainly fit that category. So let me thank you for taking the time. And, I'll see you one of these days, I hope, in this year.
It's been a really pleasure to be in your podcast.
Of course it has. You only said Seriously Bud 2 times. Okay. Thanks, Leo. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, I didn't know that Leo has 2 dogs that he walks twice a day and that they're bigger than he is a serious cyclist, is a photographer who loves to take pictures of transportation equipment, and works for Hostinger, a well-known WordPress web hosting company. Oh, I know this because I write for them. Did you? As always, you can hear past episodes of my show at seriouslybud.com. Until next time, thank you for your time.